Good evening. Good evening. I was on mute. It's been that type of day, y'all. But guess what? We are undefeated. We are standing strong. We are here for our third session of Women Up. I'm wearing my favorite yellow sweater because Yvonne made me take off my ebony hoodie. She says I'm wearing it too much. Anyway, we have an amazing lineup for you tonight. I would love to introduce them, and then I will move out of the way so we can have a conversation that is so timely, and it's about our money. My girl, Lynn Richardson, is moderating. She is the financial guru. Let me tell you something. She has saved me so much money in my taxes, Lynn. I think that's what you're talking about tonight. I hope so, because everyone can learn something from you. So thank you for coming. I love you. I appreciate you. And then we have Miriam Velez. I hope I'm saying that correctly because everyone calls me Guy and not G. So I'm sending you love. She is the CFO of Baccarat, one of my favorite scents. Amazing company that absolutely knows about products and services and servicing people. And then we have Kelly Salney. Thank you for joining us. She is the Director of Strategic Partnerships with Camelback Ventures. Thank you for coming, Kelly. Kelly with an I. Okay, see, I'm doing good tonight. And Sybil Amuti, thank you for coming. She is the great girlfriend to all, and she is the founder of that. We welcome you. Please enjoy. Please pull out your pencils. Please take notes and enjoy tonight. It's good to see you.
Good evening. Thank you so much, Michelle G., our fabulous CEO of our favorite community namesake, and it is Ebony. We are so excited. I'm so excited. Thank you to everyone who's here tonight. I wanted to share a little bit about what we all need to be thinking about as relates to our taxes. But before I can get to that, I need to tell you why this is important. There are three basic steps to getting your money straight. The first step is to spend less money. Everybody should look to spend less money. That's the mistake that I made early in my lifetime. I was born and raised in Chicago. My grandmother was 75 years old, cleaning homes for wealthy people, putting me through college. She taught me to go to school, get a good education, get a good job, go to church on Sunday, wear clean underwear, get hit by a bus. And I learned all those things, but I didn't know about money. I went off to college and I got a whole bunch of credit cards, couldn't pay anybody. When the creditors would call and say, Lynn, can you borrow the money? I'd say, can I borrow it from you? I had all kind of funny answers until I got out in the real world. When I got out into the real world, I was not so funny anymore. As a matter of fact, my situation was not funny at all. My credit was jacked up. My furniture was from Rent-A-Center, and my life felt like it was doomed from day one. Fast forward, I get married. I'm successful, 3 kids, big house in the suburbs, all of the bells and whistles of what's supposed to be a successful life. But I was living a lie. You see, the more money I made, the more money I spent. I was living check to Monday. Check to check is a blessing. That means you get paid on Friday and by the next payday you're broke. But check to Monday is a whole nother game. You get paid on Friday, you kick it on the weekend, you pay on your past 2 bills, and by Monday you're broke. So I spend my lifetime helping people understand this. More money doesn't solve a money problem. If it did, millionaires wouldn't go bankrupt. If more money could solve a money problem, you never have a bankrupt millionaire, you never have a bankrupt billionaire. So what do? We are smart, we are educated, we are people of color, we are black and brown, we are black girl magic, we are doing it, but we still have not conquered the wealth game. And so the first step in this process is to spend less money. The next thing to do to get your money to the next level is to get more money. One stream of income is hazardous to your wealth. If this pandemic has not taught us anything, it's taught us how to pivot, it's taught us how to pray, and it's taught us how to get ourselves to the next level so we can be in the process of understanding that one stream of income is not a safe situation to be in. But here's the problem with making more money, because the more money you make, the more the IRS will take. I remember that first check that I got going from making $10,000 a pay period to $20,000 a pay period. I thought my net pay would be about $8,500 because when I thought my net pay would be about $16,000 because when I had a $10,000 check, that net pay was about $8,500. So I figured with a $20,000 check, the net pay would be somewhere around $16,000 or $17,000. Well, that didn't happen. When I got the check was about $9,000, almost passed out in the office. And then I said, girl, you cannot pass out because you need your money. I said, you right. So I went into the office. I called the IRS. People said, well, why'd you call the IRS? I said, because they had my money. Who else you gonna call, right? So I called the IRS. I spoke to a withholding agent, and they told me that because I was making more money, I was in all these different tax brackets. And I thought, this cannot be what life is supposed to be like. I cannot grow up, make it through the projects, get a degree, make more money, and actually get less, which leads me to the third thing that we must all do, and that is to get your money back. What do I mean by that? I mean this. Imagine if you went to the grocery store and you spent $300 on groceries, and you came home, ate your groceries. Now imagine 3 weeks later, the grocery store manager called you and said, hey, come back and get your money, but you can keep your groceries. Well, guess what? Every single person would stop, drop, and roll. We'd go back, we'd get our money. Well, that's what the IRS says. The IRS says when you have a home-based business, you get to get your money back. When you drive your car for business, you get your money back. When you use your cell phone for business, you get your money back. Everybody's so excited about going back outside and being out in the world again, and I am too. But here's the deal. When you just go out to eat with your friends, you just spend some money and had a good time. But if you go out to eat to discuss business, you just spent some money, had a good time, and now you get your money back. The IRS says this hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. So what we must all understand is how to live our life like a business. Live our life like a business. When you have a home-based business, you are in the same category as any other business. Why? Because there are two systems in America. What I want everybody to understand is it is not black versus white. It is not rich versus poor. It is not educated versus uneducated. It is not upper class versus middle class versus low class. It is employee versus business. Whenever monetary policy is created in this country, we are separated into two categories: who are the employees and who are the businesses. Now, here's how the employee system works. On the employee system, if you make $100,000, you're going to get taxed about 35%. So you'll get about $65,000 in your paycheck if you're lucky. And off of that $65,000, you have to figure out how to pay your rent, your light, your gas, your car note, and all the things that you have to live off of. And at the end of the year, you're going to be taxed on the whole $100,000 as if you got it. That doesn't seem fair. Well, guess what? On the business system, it operates differently. If you have a business and your business makes $100,000, or you make $100,000 from all the other things you do, the first thing that happens in the business system is first you get to write off all of those things that you use in business. You get to write off your car note, your home office, your computer, your cable, your business trips, again, your business trips. And then once you take all of those expenses, let's say all those expenses were $60,000 or $70,000. You're going to subtract that number from the 100,000, and then you're taxed on what's left. Okay, this is key. Under the employee system, you get taxed off the top dollar that you didn't even get. On the business system, you get taxed off the bottom dollar after everything is written off. So every single one of us must learn the rules of the game and then play the game by the rules. Now, this is very timely right now because we are in the middle of stimulus season. We are in the middle of, there's a little bit of worry about inflation. The stock market is going up and down. It's a little bit volatile. So right now, we want to learn the rules of the game. There are a couple of things I want to bring to your attention as it relates to taxes that every single person should know. First of all, the first $10,200 in unemployment benefits received in 2020 during the pandemic are not taxable. This is key, because in the past, unemployment benefits have been taxable. So the first $10,200 are not taxable. Now, here's the deal. Many people were in a hurry to file their 2020 taxes as soon as the system opened early February, and you may have already filed your taxes and you may have already paid taxes on that money. Do not fret. Please wait. Do not file an amended tax return yet, because the IRS has issued a statement saying that they are going to deal with this. If you have not filed your 2020 taxes, then make sure you to ensure that the first $10,200 of unemployment benefits, to make sure that those items are not taxed. Okay, that's one point. The second thing is this: if you did not receive any stimulus funds for one reason or the other, there were many reasons why people did not receive stimulus funds. Perhaps their most recent tax return did not get to the IRS in time. Perhaps there was an incorrect number on the bank account and maybe the check was not rerouted. But for everybody who did not get any stimulus funds for whatever reason, for any reason whatsoever, then guess what? You may be eligible for the recovery rebate credit. Again, if you got no stimulus money, you may be eligible for the recovery rebate credit, but you must file a 2020 tax return. This is key because there are some people who, for whatever reason, whether they are retired, on disability, or Social Security, there are some people who never file a tax return. Well, I want everybody to make sure that you file a 2020 tax return just to see if you are eligible, if for no other reason, to see if you are eligible for that recovery rebate credit. The last thing I want to share about some important updates to the tax code and what we need to understand and what we need to be, what we need to think about is the tax payment and filing deadline has been extended from April 15th to May 17th. All right. So we've got an extra month now to get it together. Now, let me tell you what we are going to do with that extra month. As I've shared before, my latest book, Get Your Money Back, Tax Deductions That You Never Knew About, I list hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tax deductions that people never knew about. So here's one of the most important things for everybody out there who is taking care of a child, who has a child. Many of us are in extended families where grandmother or a member of the family or an older sibling is taking care of a young one. For everybody who has a child, I want you to know this. The IRS says when you hire your child to work in your home-based business, this is so important. And the reason why this is so important, it's important because we are spending lots of money on kids, young kids, teenage kids, and even adult kids. Well, the IRS says when you hire your child to work in your home-based business, you can pay each child up to $12,400 a year. $12,400 a year. That money is a tax write-off to you. If you have one child, that's $12,400. If you have two children, that's $24,800. If you have three children like me, that's $37,200. It's way too much money to overlook. The IRS says that money is now a tax write-off to me. So in addition to whatever tax write-offs I already have from whatever other activities, now I've got an additional tax write-off. So the money that I pay my child, guess what I'm going to do with that money? My child is now going to pay for their own things. Like what? I'm glad you asked. They're going to pay for their own things like tuition. They're going to pay for their own school clothes. They're going to pay for their own school supplies. They're going to pay for their own ballet classes, tennis lessons, football practice, basketball camp, all the things that you can think of that we spend on our children. And for those who have young children and who are in the workforce and who are paying $150 to $250 or $300 a week on childcare, guess what? You can still get the child tax credit, and you can also get the tax write-off when you pay your child. Now, the IRS says this in publication 15. And the reason why I educate you on where to find this information is because along this path to becoming financially free and along this path to getting to the next level, you are going to run into haters, naysayers, blockers, and crab barrel leg pullers. Okay, you're going to run into people who are going to tell you you can't do this, it's too risky, so on and so forth. Let me tell you something about risk. If you were going to get on an airplane and you saw me in the pilot's seat, that would be risky because I know nothing about flying a plane. Okay, I know everything I can tell you about money, about taxes, about the stock market, about home ownership, about refinancing, investing. I can tell you all about that, but I cannot fly a plane. But if you put that plane in the hands of someone who is trained, then you're likely going to be okay. So if you are working with a tax professional who knows nothing about how to help a business owner, you have to work with a tax professional who understands business owners. The tax code is vast. If you go to irs.gov and you try to print out the entire tax code, it's about 70,000 pages long. And most tax professionals are like attorneys. They specialize in a specific area. Just because you are a criminal attorney does not mean you can handle a liability case. Just because you are a civil rights attorney does not mean you can handle a criminal case. And just because you are a tax preparer who helps people get the earned income credit and other credits does not mean that you know how to help business owners. So I want you to be wary, and I want you to be aware, but more importantly, I want you to be prepared for the haters, the blockers, the naysayers, and the crab barrel leg pullers who will tell you that you can't do it because you can. Let me help you understand something. You see, we have to learn the difference between the rich and the wealthy rich. You see, rich people stay rich because they act poor, and poor people stay poor because they act rich, and poor people stay poor acting rich in front of other poor people, which is real crazy. And that's not what we're looking to do. What we're looking to do is actually learn how to get our money to work for us, because money will work harder for you than you can ever work for it. But first, we got to spend less of it. Second, we have to get more of it. And third, we have to get it back so that it can actually go to work for us. One of the most infamous stories that I can share publicly, because this gentleman shares it publicly, as I talk about Antoine Walker. Antoine is the infamous NBA player who had the $112 million contract. And he was bankrupt about 5 or 6 years later. He was in the NBA for a short time, and he was bankrupt about 2 years after he left the NBA. And people could not understand, how could someone with $112 million be bankrupt so quickly? Well, I'm going to tell you how. First of all, on $112 million, there's roughly 25 to 30% in agent and attorney fees. So let's take 25 million off right there. So that 112 million has dwindled down significantly. The second thing that happens is the IRS is now going to tax Mr. Antoine on the entire amount as if he got it all. And the taxes that he owed on 112 million was somewhere around $55 million. Now, here's the deal. Here's what you need to understand. Wealthy Republicans, Mitt Romney, Jeff Bezos, and I'm not saying that they're all wealthy Republicans, but I'm putting them in different categories. Wealthy Republicans, people like Jeff Bezos, who got a $160 million tax refund, Mitt Romney, they would never pay $55 million in taxes on $112 million. Okay? And so Antoine talks about his plight during this time. He was taking his family on vacations. Vacations are not a tax write-off. Business trips are. So if you hire your family members to work in your business and they do legitimate business, one of the things that people know about me who know me is that everybody in my family works for the business. My husband legitimately works for the business. My children legitimately work for the business. As a matter of fact, my youngest daughter, Kennedy, who is a sophomore at Howard University, has been working for me since she was 6 years old. And if she was ever questioned by anyone, including the IRS, she would tell them, yes, I work for my mom. I do events. I've worked at the BET Awards. I've worked at Essence Fest. And soon she will be working for Ebony as soon as I have something to do in person for Ebony. But the point is, when your family works in your business, now when you take a business trip, when we went to Disney World in 2008, it was a business trip, and they actually did do business. And guess what you get to do during your free time? You get to do all the things you were going to do on vacation anyway. So we must learn to get our money back. We must learn how to live our lives like a business, and we must not be afraid of risk. One of the things that I say to everyone about the tax code is this. It's two things that you must learn, and these are key. Tax avoidance is legal. Tax avoidance is the legal, ethical, and moral method by which you look for additional ways to pay less taxes. It is perfectly legal. Tax evasion is not, okay? Tax evasion is doing illegal things or hiding income in order to not pay taxes, and that will land you in jail. So how do you get a draw line between the two? Learn the rules of the game and then play the game by the rules. Once again, learn the rules of the game and then play the game by the rules. So I want everybody to get on board. You're going to spend less money, you're going to get more money, and you're going to get your money back. And we are going to build wealth as a community. And thank you so much, Ebony, for giving us this platform to do so. So we're going to open it up for questions. And I see, yes, there's a question from the audience. How old does your child have to be in order to place them in your payroll? Excellent question. Excellent question. Okay, so there are two things that are going to happen if you decide to hire your child. One, you've got to make a decision if they're going to be a W-2 employee or if they're going to be a 1099 independent contractor. A W-2 employee has a job and earns wages and has to report on a specific day and time, just like you would if you worked at a retailer or McDonald's and so on and so forth. An independent contractor gets a 1099 and completes a project. So depending on which one you choose dictates the activities. Now, the Department of Labor says this, and I quote, "A child of any age can work in entertainment and in a parent's home-based business." And there are a few other categories as well. That's why you see babies on television in the diaper commercial. That's why you see little kids on television in the clothing or the toy commercials and so on and so forth, because the Department of Labor has already said that a child of any age can work in entertainment. That means in a theatrical production, in a television production, on your YouTube production, your commercial for your business, and so on and so forth. The second thing that the Department of Labor says that a child of any age can work in a parent's home-based business. Now, the Small Business Association backs it up. If you Google Small Business Association, hire your kids, you will run into an article that says 5 reasons to hire your kids. And so the Small Business Association of the United States government says when a child works in a home-based business, that a child can work for any number of hours at any time of the day. This does not work in your corporation. This does not work in your hair salon. This does not work in your other business someplace else at another facility. This only works in your home-based business, which is why even if you have a corporation or partnership or an LLC with other people, it's important for everyone to have a home-based business, because there are deductions that you can only take in your home-based business, and that's one of them, and that's one of the broader parameters in terms of allowing your children to work. If your child comes to work in your business that's in a facility, then there are child labor laws and other limitations. So that's a great question. Let's see here. Okay, there's one more thing that I'd like to just share very quickly. Medical deductions. So the IRS says that your adjusted gross income, or that your medical expenses, must exceed a certain percentage of your adjusted gross income. So if your adjusted gross income is $100,000, then your medical expenses must be at least $7,500 before you can write off 1 penny. So you can't write off the first $7,500, but you can write off additional above and beyond that, and it's not a dollar for dollar write-off. However, when you have a home-based business, you get to hire your significant other, your spouse, in your home-based business, enroll them in your self-employed medical reimbursement program, and now you get to write off those braces, you get to write off those doctor visits, you get to write off chiropractic visits, and for women, you also get to write off your feminine hygiene needs and medication on a monthly basis in accordance with the laws that were passed with the 2020 CARES Act. So having a home-based business is important. Getting your money back is more important, and understanding the tax code is essential to your growth. So I am so excited. We are going to move on. We have a panel coming up, and I'll just wait for the cue to invite my guests and to introduce them, and let me know when we can get started. So excited. Okay, I can go. Okay, I'm very excited to talk to you today. This Women Up panel, I've got some great women here to talk to us tonight and to share some of their wisdom and their knowledge. First, Miriam Vales. Miriam Vales is the Chief Financial Officer of Baccarat Inc. North America. Baccarat is the French luxury brand internationally renowned as a leader in high-end and exclusive crystal products. Founded in 1764, the company's artisanal factory is based in Baccarat in the Lorraine region of eastern France. For more than 250 years, the brand has inspired leading designers worldwide. Miriam has over 26 years of professional experience within various industries. Welcome to Women Up, Miriam, my sister Miriam. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, so great to have you. And you're so beautiful. Oh my goodness.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Melanin is popping out. Yes. And I certainly cannot forget my sister, Miss Sybil Amoudi. Sybil Clark Amoudi is an executive brand strategist, podcast producer, and co-host, philanthropist, coach, wife, and mother, and the founder of The Great Girlfriend. So good to see you, my favorite girlfriend, Miss Sybil. Welcome.
So good to be here tonight. How are you tonight?
Oh, excellent. How are you? So good to see you. We've all been in quarantine world and haven't seen each other since forever. So what a wonderful way for us to get together. Thank you so much, Yvonne. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Ebony, for giving us this time to not just have this Women Up discussion, but to see our sisters live and in living color. I also want to bring to the table Kelly Sawney leads Camelback Ventures on strategic partnerships and fundraising activities with a focus on increasing access to opportunity and capital for entrepreneurs of color and women through direct investment in their companies and by advocating for fairness in their funding. Welcome to Women Up, Kelly. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Beautiful colors. Okay, ladies, so we're going to get started. My first question is going to be directed to Miriam. Miriam, you are a Black woman in finance. What have been some of your challenges in this role? How did you get where you are? Did you imagine that you would be the CFO of a prestigious company like Baccarat?
So the challenges have been many. Like, as a Black woman delving in corporate America, first of all, is not for the faint of heart. Every day you're being challenged. People take credit for your work. You work hard, you produce, you expect recognition, you don't get the recognition. It's been hard. And like with 26 years of experience, like in my 20th year even, people were still doubting the skill set I was bringing to the table. I wouldn't even say doubting, like, because you get hired based on your resume, based on conversations and all of that, but you come to the table, they don't respect you as a contributor. And I used to, from high school on, I knew I wanted to be CFO. I wanted to be at the top of my game. And I got to a point in my career, I didn't want it anymore because it was so difficult. The constant back and forth, every progress that I've made in my career, I had to either threaten to leave a department, threaten to leave the business, or even just leave and move on to another company that would give me what I was seeking. And so when this happened, when this opportunity happened, I wasn't even looking for it. It just happened. And then it just fell into place. I mean, it just goes to show what's meant for you will happen, right? So, it's been hard, but I'm grateful that I'm here. It's a great company. Last year is the first time that I felt appreciated in my career. During my review, I was having a conversation with my boss. First time in 26 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
The appreciation came from peers, co-workers, people that I was managing, my friends, my inner circle, but it never came from my higher up. It was never, I really appreciate having you here. I love working with you, or even paying me what my counterparts were making. So it hasn't been easy. What kept me in the game, if you will, is my love for what I do. I appreciate what I do. I appreciate what I bring to the table. and I enjoy it. So when, you know, I would face what I'm facing at work, I always had my work to turn to appreciate. And then coworkers, they always make it fun.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for that testimony. You are certainly an example of one of my beliefs that if you just keep moving forward, you will eventually collide into your purpose. You will collide into that gift. You will collide into the success that you dream of. So thank you for hanging in there. Thank you for not giving up. And thank you for being a spokesperson, if you will, for the struggle that I know so many women, and Black women in particular, have had in corporate America. Your efforts are to be admired and to be learned from. So thank you so much for that. Sybil, yes, thank you. Sybil, this question is for you. Your brand management and infrastructure development has led to some tremendous growth for the companies that you have worked with. Can you speak about the importance of brand strategy in building a company?
Oh yeah, that's my baby, my sweet spot. So absolutely. You know, I look at your brand strategy as really unlocking the DNA of a brand or its brand's identity. And for me, success leaves clues, and so does failure. And for all the brands that have done the work and have been in the business or been in the league or industry that you're going into, they have left a lot of clues, and a lot of the work that's been done does not need to be reformulated. You know, no reinvention of the wheel, but really asking big questions and drawing from the success of other brands to formulate how you're going to innovate and penetrate the market. So for me, brand strategy is the center point, and it's sort of a gateway for how you establish your message, your unique identity, how you make sure your consumers you're able to grab the attention of your consumers and then retain them and establish community and culture that people can opt into. And so I believe that in that foundation, you know, consumers are all looking for the same thing. Everyone wants to hope and believe in the products that they buy or opt into, the community, the brands, the people, the cultures. So it's our responsibility as brand builders to create the messaging that gives them the foundation, that gives them the system. And part of doing that is asking big questions, making sure you have people on your team who are willing to ask big questions, being willing to invest in the solutions. You know, scared money makes no money. So it's important to make the right investments into solutions that are going to help to keep you on the edge of innovation. So you're never going to feel stagnant in your brand development. And mentorship and wise counsel. Wise counsel for me, I'm always looking to plant wise counsel, wise stewards into brand strategy, because people who really consider their stewardship and are wise in how they approach stewardship will make excellent vessels for your growth and your development of your platform.
Thank you so much. You just shared something that is so key. You started off by sharing that the brand strategy is the center point, it's the foundation. So rather than going into the business or going into a strategy and then figuring out what the brand is, what you say is you start with defining what the brand is, and then you collide into what the strategy is going to be. Wow, no wonder you were so successful. Thank you. Thank you for that insight. Kelly, this question is for you. In honor of Black History Month, Camelback Ventures officially launched the Generational Inheritance Initiative, which included the unveiling of an educational and interactive social media campaign called Nextline. Can you explain what the Generational Inheritance Initiative is and why you felt it was important for the Black community?
Yeah, sure. So the Generational Inheritance Initiative is really an ongoing initiative in which we want to really focus on cooperative power and cooperative resources. So having said that, what we're trying to do is really refocus the conversation from generational wealth to generational inheritance. And that's important for a few reasons. Oftentimes when we speak of generational wealth, we are really speaking of something very linear, like what the grandparent gave to the parent, to the child, so forth and so on. And that really for Black people is a challenge because generational wealth to date has really is really an output that's based on unequitable wealth distribution. as you know, as I'm sure the whole panel knows, Black people have historically been excluded from wealth building in this country for most of its history. We've really gotten full citizenship over the past 50 to 60 years, and that's even debatable. But the reason why I want to focus on inheritance as a generational inheritance versus generational wealth is because inheritance and wealth go hand in hand, and it's not just about the tangibles. Like I said, Black people have been excluded really from inheritance from profitable inheritances, I should say, for most of America's history, right? So when you think about income versus wealth, so even though today, one may say that Black people are starting to earn more money, so forth and so on, but the reality is the average median Black income is still 60% to a white person's income. And here's the kicker: our wealth is only 5% to white people's wealth. That stark gap is because of the inheritances that have been passed on from generations of white families versus Black. So even though for Black people, we've been inheriting inequitable housing practices, inequitable access to funding for entrepreneurship, so forth and so on. All of that plays a part historically into the inheritance that my generation has now, right? So that is why I think it's important to focus on the inputs, which is generational inheritance. We want to focus on the inputs that allow for wealth creation, but also the inputs that build equitable systems to prop up and sustain wealth generation after generation.
Wow. Thank you for dropping that nugget. 60% of African Americans' income is 60% of that of whites, but our wealth is only 5%, which says that one, the income that we're getting is not necessarily being distributed towards wealth or generational wealth building assets. But that the other thing is that being excluded from many of those assets and not having the inheritance to pass down to the next generation is also precluding. Wow, this is so important. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Miriam, I'd like to ask you this now while we're talking about this very thing. What would you tell a young Black woman why would you tell, especially given all that you have gone through? And I understand that as well, being in the financial services industry, but why would you tell a young Black woman to pursue a career in finance?
First and foremost, you have to love what you do.
Yeah.
That would be paramount. You have to enjoy being in the field that you work in. If not, everything you end up dealing with will be for nothing.
Yeah.
First, you have to enjoy it. Afterwards, I'm in accounting. There is not an industry that does not need an accountant. You will always get a job somewhere being in this field. So for those two reasons, I would encourage a young person to pursue a career in my field. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. I love it. Love what you do and the money will follow. Excellent. Excellent advice. And have a job that everybody's going to need. And you are absolutely right. We all need an accountant at some point.
Yeah.
Yes. So thank you so much for that. Sybil, can you share some of your top tips for entrepreneurs who are looking to scale their business? Woo, that word scale. How do I make it bigger, broader, and more impactful?
That's the life of an entrepreneur. Let me just say, everyone's constantly scaling because there's always more to go after, more to pursue. So the first thing I would say is your team. I just don't believe you should make a move without setting up and establishing a team. And you need people that are mismatchers to your strengths. So you need people that can plug into the opportunities, those threat points. So I believe, first of all, you should always do a SWOT analysis on where you are and what you need. A SWOT, and a SWOT is going to give you strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It'll give you a glance at where you need to plug the right people in, and the things that you need, the problems that you need to have them attack, so that you can avoid the pitfalls that are inevitable for any of us who are not with the team. You also, investors are going to invest in your team. They want to know who your team is. They want to understand the influence of your team and their ability to problem solve across the globe. So to have global thinkers is always essential. So you always want to look at that. Partnerships. You want to scale and you want to move faster. You want to move faster together. It's always important to find the intersection of what you do and what another brand does, and look at the ways that you can share some of the some of the market that you're penetrating. So many of us are speaking to the same consumer, but we're saying things a little bit differently, and we have a different spin or different product to support their lifestyle needs. So how can we intersect? How can we partner, speak to them, give them a more robust message and more robust product offering that is going to allow us both to build and both to create advantage and both to build alliances that are going to make us stronger when you're looking for investors or partners, or you want to go to banks for small business loans, to be able to say that you're able to move faster and get more impressions and have more impact faster. And then the third thing I would say, out the gate, get a coach. One of the things that I did not do that I should have done in my last business was have a business coach up front and have someone that could help me to build my infrastructure in industries that I was unfamiliar with. So the business coach is always going to be someone that can help you to get the advantages that you need, to be able to think and see and be stealth in your approach, to have balanced emotional intelligence. So you are able to think and feel through things, but not feel stagnant by them, and also pursue advantages as they come to you and not self-sabotage. It's very important.
Wow, I think you just said the bingo number one thing. As African American women, we have been taught to, to stick in there, to hang with it, to be responsible and keep going. And the truth is, we can't do it alone. And so having a coach up front, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to seek help. It's okay to engage help. So thank you so much for that great point. Kelly, speak about the power of passing along and honoring the long line of those who got us here. Can you speak to that for us? You are on mute. I think you're okay. There you go.
Okay. Sorry. That's like the theme since 2020. But yeah, so there's a few things that go into that. So let me just say the power of passing along and this idea of honoring the long line that came before us was important to me for various reasons. So when we launched the Generational Inheritance Initiative, we did it with a campaign that's still going on now called the Next in Line campaign. It's a social media campaign where we're asking everybody to visit our website and use our custom frames and honor. For Black History Month, it was someone Black, but for Women's History Month, any women who have inspired you to make change in the world. And the reason why I chose this campaign and why I really wanted to do this campaign is because I wanted to enter this conversation about generational inheritance and wealth from an asset-based framing. I wanted to draw in the audience to celebrate, look at all the power that runs through our legacies as Black people, as Black women, as women, as in our community. I thought it was important to enter and have other people enter the conversation that way, as opposed to just, dwelling on everything we don't have. Don't get me wrong, we'll get there. Because again, I'll go with my data, so we'll talk about that as well. But I think it's important that we start with, look what everything we do have and work from that standpoint. And again, we have, particularly as Black women, an incredible legacy that comes behind us. And I think that it's important that we always illuminate that, because that actually gives us our building blocks to keep moving forward and do the work that we all do.
Thank you so much for that. I was having a conversation with a woman. She's married, have a few children, and I was telling her to get her estate plan in place for this very reason that you're talking about, the Generational Inheritance Initiative. And she went to an attorney and he told her she didn't have anything. And we went through this worksheet. You have lots of things. You have life insurance, you have a pension at your job, you have assets that you own. And so all too often we're led to believe as people of color that we have nothing to pass along. So thank you so much for pointing out that the Next in Line campaign is all about showing us the things that we do have and that we already do possess. So thank you. So important there. Okay, I think I'm getting closer to the closing questions, and maybe we'll have some questions from the audience, but I'm going to keep going as long as I can. Miriam, this question is for you. What financial mistakes have you made and how have you bounced back?
So before when you're in college, that's when everybody's offering you credit cards. So I went credit card crazy when my last year of college. So I opened up a few credit cards. I was buying, it was my best friend. I was buying things left and right. And then once I started working, it was to pay those credit card bills. So of course, as the years passed, I closed all of these credit cards. I really have one major credit card, one star card for my daughter, and then I mostly use my debit card, which I'm sure people will advise me against, but that's what I mostly use. And secondly, making the mistakes of trying to take care of everybody. Everybody has a problem. I want to fix it. I want to help you. It's our problem. We'll get through it together. Spiting myself to help people, and when it's time for them to reimburse, they have priorities. I put aside my priority to help you out, but your priority is your priority. I had to learn my priority is a priority as well, and take care of my priority before I help people. I had an affliction of wanting to help people all the time. A friend of mine said, you need to get another hobby. That is, that's a hobby for you. You love to help people, get another hobby. So I had to learn to take care of me and only spare what I can afford to lose, because I have to take care of me.
You have preached a whole financial sermon right here today. The credit cards, you got them in the last year. I got them in the first year, and it just went downhill from there. And I used to loan money to people even when I was broke, so they knew who I was, because I wanted to help everybody. And then the people you want to help, yes, got all of that. Wow, definitely some lessons that we can all learn from. But more importantly, to not be ashamed of those mistakes, and to not be ashamed of the lessons that we learned through those mistakes. So thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for your transparency in that. Sybil, you talk a lot, you speak a lot about legacy, and you launched a company called Legacy Row. Legacy is something we should have front of mind. It's something that Kelly has been talking to us about from another perspective in terms of generational inheritance. But legacy is something that we should all have in front of mind. Can you tell us why this is important?
You know, I had a legacy wake-up call in 2013, and I would consider it a high point in career, helping a lot of major brands do a lot of major work, adding a lot of commas behind their name and adding none to mine. And so I realized that I'm helping all of these other brands to establish their legacy, which will be their closing story, right? All the things that we build upon as we do our daily work. And I was only living out one facet of what I wanted my legacy to be, and that there was an open opportunity for me to take ownership. And in that moment, Lynn, my recognition or ownership that I had to take was, I'm showing up for everyone else. I'm not showing up for myself. And the damage that I was doing was that I was living up to everyone else's expectation of who they wanted me to be, and not showing up as the person that I knew God had called me to be. I was certain of this. And so that fractional life was something that I realized. I looked around and I was the only one. There were so many other women, friends of mine, even the people that I was working with, the celebrities I was working with, were building out according to other people's expectations and never truly fulfilling the things that they desired to do. So I think that if we learn and live that we get one life, you are one vessel, and this is the one opportunity to establish what you want to be the blueprint that you leave, that inheritance that Kelly's speaking of, if it's financial, if it's emotional, if it's physical, assets of all type, then it's important that you do the work now, the intentional work, which is, what is it that you want to be said? What is it that you want to leave behind? And how do you make those steps and make those plans today? I think a lot of times we get to the other people's end of the road, and you hear these stories of how people wish they wanted to do more, but they never took the opportunity to do it. And they always felt too old, and they felt so discredited and disqualified. And, you know, my great qualifier has been God. So he gave me the anchor to be able to make space for that message so that other women could get their take ownership and understand you are qualified today. You can build and establish your legacy today. And while we're buying into everybody else's legacy, all these brands that we spend our money on, what about our brand? How about we do that, make that same investment into our personal brand so our great greats and great greats can have something to talk about that we want them to say, you know? So for me, that's why legacy is essential. It's a mandatory concept that I hope like we can walk away and live with daily. Like every single heartbeat, footprint, decision, these choices, they all make up the DNA of your legacy.
Wow, you have preached a whole sermon here. We need to pass the collection plate. All of you have just, you just said something that's so powerful, and you related legacy to your own worth, purpose, calling, the reason why you're here. Literally 5 years ago, and it was at the very first Wealth Experience, and you were there, Sybil. After all the festivities, Yvonne was sitting with Light and myself, and she said, Lynn, when are you going to start speaking? And I started crying. I didn't realize the tear was going to roll because I hadn't been speaking. And every time somebody asked me that question, I'd get reserved. I'd try to throw it off. And the truth is, I was not doing the very thing that you just said. I was not honoring my legacy. And so thank you for sharing that. And it definitely brought me back to that moment. And there are so many women here of all ages, whether it be, our baby boomers, whether it be our Generation Xers, whether it be Generation Z. I think they got some more generations out. I forgot who all the people are. But the very best thing that you can do to honor yourself and honor your legacy is to be your authentic self. So thank you so much, Sybil, for reminding us of that. And thank you, Yvonne, for asking me that question that time, because it pushed something out. Kelly, this question is for you. And you have talked so much about the Generational Inheritance Initiative. Definitely given us some great pointers in terms of understanding the value that we already have. Can you share with us some of the results of this initiative?
Sure. So, we're only in it about a month now. So, from a social media standpoint, we've already had hundreds of people post, and that's just amazing to see all the beautiful images of Black people and Black women in particularly. And it's funny when we see pictures of our parents or whatever, like, wow, my mom used to really be a hot girl or whatever. So that's fun in itself. But in terms of the broader initiative, what it's really doing is bringing together everyone around this important conversation. And I want to just pick up on what Miriam and Silva were saying, because, I have a lot of friends in corporate America, and she's right. Corporate America is definitely not for the faint of heart. It's a different. But to Sybil's point around, legacy being a mandate, what I tell people, particularly about my friends in corporate America, about the next in line is, you're not going to be at that job forever. What are you doing at your job today to make sure that the next woman, the next Black woman, is coming into hopefully a more equitable condition than the one, that, are you challenging policies? Are you, speaking up when it's time to speak up? And I know that takes a lot of autonomy. But what we're doing is bringing people into this conversation around inheritance to say you can do this, and giving them the tools to do that. Because as Sybil said, legacy is a mandate, and I agree with that. And within that, I would also say that you have to always be thinking about the next in line, because that is really how generational inheritance will be. You have to always be thinking about the next in line. So inheritance isn't something far away, inheritance really is a lot more proximate than we think. And that is the conversation that we're shifting with the initiative.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So we've got a few minutes left. We've probably got a good 4 or 5 minutes to kind of wrap up here. So this is the wrap up question I'm going to ask everyone. And then if you missed something and you want to share, here's your time to throw it in there. But the question I'm going to ask each of you, and I'll start with you, Miriam. What would you say to your 20-year-old self, given all the lessons that you've learned today, so that the 20-year-old, I tell people I'm approaching an age that people usually don't really want to admit. But the truth is,
you don't really start living until you get about 45 or 50, because the first 20 years you were a kid, in your 20s you didn't know anything, 30s you're trying to figure it out, so 40 is when you really become an adult. But what would you say, each of you, to your 20-year-old self, as a word of encouragement and lessons for those of us who are watching?
I would say, I was asked this question once. I would say there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. You are unique. You are treasured. You are important. Your voice matters. What you bring to the table is important. And you're a contributor. And you need to make sure people respect your skill set. Because in my career, I've done so many things to just thinking, what's wrong with me that I'm not getting this promotion? What's wrong with me that this didn't happen? It's not you. If the person does not want to give you that promotion, whatever you do with yourself, bend over backwards, they will not give it to you. So never doubt yourself. That's what I would say to 20-year-old Miriam. And trust your instincts. If it doesn't feel right, it isn't right. You know, and sometimes learn to let go. You may like a company, you think you're comfortable, you don't want to move, you don't want to see what's out there. People used to, you know, as a veiled threat, I call it a veiled threat. I used to hear, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. You know, people want to leave. This is such a great company. People just want to leave. The grass isn't always greener. My comeback is sometimes it is greener.
Come on now.
And I will relish in that green.
Amen. I love it. I love it. Sybil, what would you say to that, your 20-year-old self?
I have a list here.
I know you've got some other good little tips for us as well.
Oh, 20-year-old Sybil was in a dark place. I would tell her to put that drink down first. You're not even old enough, so what are you doing? So put that drink down. I would tell her, don't date him, okay?
Yeah.
Don't date him.
Memory.
It's not worth the time. I would tell her to trust yourself. Trust yourself. Trust yourself. That's so important. Trust yourself. And I would tell her that she's safe in vulnerability. It's okay to be vulnerable, to let the guards down. Yeah.
Wow.
That's definitely what she needed to know.
Woo! Y'all are preaching. You're preaching today. Okay, Kelly, what would you say to your 20-year-old self and all the 20-year-olds out there who need your love and wisdom?
I too have a laundry list, but I'll start with radical self-care is the most radical form of care. And I don't just mean spa days, even though those are amazing. I mean like mentally, like protecting your mental space. Creating spaces for your mental wellness, however you need to do that, because creativity takes courage, and courage is about creativity. So you have to be able to, your mental wellness is your priority always. Another thing I would tell myself is, and I love this quote, is learn to listen. Somebody might be talking softly. I think that's important. I try to do, way more listening now than talking. I'm on a panel right now. I try to do I try to listen as much as possible, because I don't have to bear the burden of knowing everything. I'm cool with being around I'm secure enough to be around some people that may be smarter than me, but I'm also secure enough to know that I can take away. I have what it takes to take away from those smart people and build whatever it is I dream to build. So those are the two things that I would tell myself.
Wow. I guess I can throw in one. I would say to that young girl, acknowledge God in all your ways and he will direct your path. I spent so much time trying to make it happen on my own and depending on my own thoughts and mind, and I would have let go much sooner had I had the capacity to understand that. So thank you all so much. This has been an excellent, outstanding Woman Up. I see some of the comments. This has been excellent. I love the opportunity for us to get back together again. I can't wait until everything opens up outside and we get to have some of these conversations live in living color, in physical presence, so we can go have a business lunch afterwards. And thank you so much to Ebony. Thank you so much to our fabulous CEO, Michelle Thornton G. Thank you so much to Yvonne McNair and Captivate Marketing Group. Thank you, Miriam. Thank you, Sybil. And thank you, Kelly. Thank all of you for being here. It is time to woman up on Women Up with Ebony. We're so excited. We love, honor, and bless. And thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you guys. Have a great evening.